Hi, my name is Megan Rice, and today I'm going to be talking to you about counseling and restorative practices. I'll go ahead and start with counseling. Counselors are trained professionals who provide intervention when necessary. They provide assessment support, they provide special education standards, social emotional development, crisis response, and access to community resources. Counselors anywhere from kindergarten to 12th grade can be found at your local campus, and support can be provided or recommended from either your teacher, the counselor themselves, an administrator, or oftentimes parents. According to the Texas Education Agency, school counselors offer services to increase student wellness, improve academic performance, social emotional learning. They can also provide things such as college and career readiness, and they can also assist with post secondary opportunities. That is more applicable for secondary education, but it is a good foundation from elementary all the way up to middle school. Counseling services in elementary school are they can be different, ranging anywhere from one-to-one group. So this is just a group between the counselor and the student. This is going to be determined on an at-need basis. The counselor will normally meet with the scholar on anywhere from 1 to 3 times before they determine if the student needs to continue counseling services. There are also small group sessions. This can be done with a group of peers in the same class, grade level, or often sibling groups. And lastly, there are whole group instructions. Whole group instruction is normally when the counselor can support inside the classroom where they push in. This is normally occurring once a semester, where there are lessons on character traits, bullying, and so forth. How do students qualify for counseling? This is a little different from general education and bilingual education services. So there's really no application or qualifying process. Things are determined from the counselor at an need basis. So the counselor will determine if services need to happen with a student. This could occur from a teacher referral. This could be a parent referral, or maybe just something that the counselor would like to follow up with. The frequency is determined by the counselor, and so they will determine students that need to be met with and the regularity of that. The counseling program for students provides individual support. They also provide goal setting. You'll notice that they can do anything from short term goal setting to long term. When students meet with a counselor, they are pretty much looking for a safe space to where they can discuss things of personal matters. They can work on problem solving techniques. Could be anything from self talk, could be an instance that they just need to talk about with the counselor themselves. So there's no one size fits all for how counseling looks. And for how it looks for each student. So every student's need is completely different. The teachers and the staff members that help coordinate, this is going to look like from administrators, teachers, the counselor, and sometimes nurse or parent. They'll determine who needs counseling and the regularity of that. Curriculum intervention is different for each counselor and per campus. So most counselors typically like to work with no more than 250 kids. Now we know that's a lot larger at most of our campuses from K all the way to 12th grade. Intervention and curriculum is done anywhere again from one-to-one all the way to whole group instruction. Intervention is going to be kind of that tier 1 support for base level counseling, and then once you'll notice it'll the frequency when it increases, it's more of a tier 2 approach. Monitoring and evaluation is normally done by the counselor. Oftentimes, she or he will communicate with the teacher and the parents to see if it is beneficial for the student to continue or to exit counseling services. Misconceptions or mistakes. People often assume that children who are in counseling or need counseling are crazy, which is often not true. And they also assume that children who assume that when they are in counseling, that the counselor will tell their teacher the items or the things that were discussed, which is also not true. Everything discussed in the counselor's office is completely confidential unless it jeopardizes the health and the safety and well-being of the individual student or the other students around them. Other than that, things are kept confidential because the primary goal of counseling is to build and establish a relationship with this scholar in order to best meet their needs, whether that's academic, social, emotional, or anything in between. The next item we're going to discuss is restorative practice. Again, this is also not a program that, when we associate bilingual education, special education, gifted and talented, this is something that is more of an approach and a mindset that can be executed within the school from administration all the way down to the students. Restorative practice is an approach to how we discipline children. Oftentimes, we think of disciplining needing a consequence. So, for example, in my school district, they still practice paddling children. Restorative practice would take that approach, throw it out the window, and they would really challenge us to think of the reasoning behind the action. There's no qualification process. This is more of a means for disciplinary. For teachers and students, we can kind of work collaboratively to make sure this is done in schools. So it challenges the idea of punishing a student to really believing when you know better, you do better. So allowing children to really understand the consequences of their action before they arise. The program provides, or in this specific case, this practice allows children to problem solve, which really reduces the amount of future problems we see in the education system and the community at large. It also strengthens connections between peers and connections between teachers and students. So instead of students looking at teachers from a lens of this teacher is going to punish me, it's really a amount of this teacher is here to facilitate my learning. And whether that's math or reading or really just understanding problem solving techniques. Instead of looking at a lens of what rule did I break or what did I do wrong, we look at it from a lens of what harm occurred and how has it impacted relationships and the learning in this environment. It's really taking this idea of doing wrong and challenging it to how can I be better and understanding why were my actions incorrect. The teachers and staff members that help coordinate it are really all of them. This goes from administration down. You'll notice that the counselor, the principal, the assistant principal really have to establish this foundation and provide ample professional development for teachers to put this practice into place. The implementation is key. What does this look like? So, curriculum and instruction, when everybody is on all hands on deck, looks like incorporating daily meetings, morning meetings, really establishing this type of foundation and expectation, providing sentence stems for kids. It affected me when you said this. This is why. This is how it made me feel. There's goal setting involved for the teachers and for the students. Children also have the opportunity to share how it made them feel. We also forget that the person who has committed the offense needs to also participate in goal setting and participate in this reflection piece in order for it to be effective. Instead of telling the student you were wrong and to deliver an apology, it really allows them to focus on how they were incorrect and how they can change it for future situations. So the reflection piece is really key. The reflection piece is key in order to kind of make this go full circle. Monitoring and evaluating the program really looks like teachers implementing this skill set within the classroom, allowing children to role play so that when situations do arise, they have the skills they need in order to execute fully. This restorative practice, really building the relationship and fixing it between peer to peer. Common misconceptions that we find in restorative practice is that change happens fast. That's not the case. Oftentimes, teachers are quick to deliver a consequence. You have lapse, you have a lonely lunch, you have all of these things because you've done wrong. When really restorative practice is a cultural shift. It takes time from the top down to change the mindset, to change the verbiage that we use and how we address our children to really see an entire shift in the school. Another misconception is that there are no consequences, which is incorrect. There can be consequences with restorative justice, but the goal is to repair the harm that is done, learning from mistakes and rebuilding. Instead of you've done wrong and you've got 10 sentences to write, it's really understanding the apology piece from peer to peer. So, with that being said, both of these programs, both counseling and restorative practice, can collaboratively work together to get the job done in the school. You'll notice that this is very different from gifted and talented programs or bilingual education. There's no application piece, there is no nomination requirement. What it looks like is the way we change how we do things. Behavioral changes, and it really allows us to see both counseling and restorative practices in place. Thank you for watching.